Hello, welcome
Hey,
to
what's going on?
LinkedIn Unlocked episode. I think we're 15 now with special guest Mena of the Elite Recruiter podcast, available on Apple. And I just must say, before we get into things, thank you so much for joining us. We are so happy to have you here. And I still want to reschedule myself.
No, yeah. Let's do that.
There's my shameless plug.
I mean, we were texting about that. I was like, hey, let's look at June. And now we're in June.
Uh-huh. So I just wanted to start there.
Welcome to June, everybody.
Oh my God. So much of the year's already gone.
Well, wait a minute. Speaking of the year that's gone, Ben, you got a big week ahead of you. Are you sure you want to do this today? Don't you have Recruit DC this week?
Yeah, trust me. I'm kind of nervous about that. Don't laugh at that.
Look, first off, it's an epic event. So shout out to the Recruit DC community that's tuning in. If you're not tuning in and you're going to listen to this later, you're going to be filled with FOMO about not being a part of Recruit DC. There are a lot of recruiting events that are going on this week. There's Talent 42. There's Tech Recruit out west. But on the East Coast, there's Recruit DC, and there's no finer place to be.
Yeah, I've actually been to a few of their events previously. They do such a great job. And now I'm like, they gave me 45 minutes to talk, and I'm like, Twitch. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? I mean, I already have all down what I'm going to talk about. So if you're listening and you're seeing this, there's a plan. It just, the nerves are starting to kick in.
Yeah.
That means something good is coming.
So, but yeah, it's all going to be talking about branding. And I feel like I kind of know, I don't want to say I know a lot about branding because there's 1,000 experts, but I've accidentally created a brand and I've kind of reverse engineered it a little bit and using that information to kind of help people out, whether you're looking for a job, whether you're looking for clients, or you're just looking at ways to stand out and build that community for the future. There are so many things that you could be doing right now, to help you in 3 months, to help yourself now, and to help yourself in 6 months. So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about, all about branding.
That was such a great intro because I don't know where to start now. But we are so excited to have you to talk about branding. And you mentioned reverse engineering. That got my attention. I know, special shout out, for our audience, anyone tuning in, drop a comment if you're here and you're visiting and enjoying us here. But Ben actually helped us get onto Spotify. So because of Ben, we are on Spotify. So we are big fans of the Elite Recruiter podcast. If you haven't watched it or if you haven't tuned in to listen on,
or if you don't run to it on the elliptical machine, you might want to try that. People.
Yeah. If you don't, incline walk, I have countless episodes and learned so much from so many different people that I've actually been able to reach out, and, relationship building is a big part of branding, right? Do you guys agree with me?
Totally.
So I think you do a really good job of, Ben, being connectable, and you do the best job of being really human and easy to speak to. So how did you get there is where I'll start.
Well, it's kind of funny, but I actually just shared this week. I didn't really pay attention to I really don't look at the numbers that often, but I popped online on my podcasting hosting site and it said I've published 104 hours of audio content. So the first probably 50 episodes, I think I might have been the only listener. Maybe the person that was the guest, they ever went back to listen to themselves. So maybe I was having two listeners at a time, but a lot of it was just, through slowly building and slowly sharing and over time planting those seeds in the ground that really just are now just starting to come up. I can't tell you how often on a daily basis somebody's like, I just found your podcast, and I'm like, thank you so much. But here's the cool thing. When people hear the word brand, so often it is so annoying. Hey guys, that when you you just think of all these people that are just me. It's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about me. Well, here's the thing. You can build a brand and make it not about you. If you shine the light on other people and focus the conversation on somebody else and help them share their story, help them like share what they're doing. Automatically, a light's going to get shined back on you. And you could do that within your niche. You could do that within the talent acquisition and recruiting community. There are so many things that you could do by like highlighting other people, and just sit back and like the light shines back on you because of that.
You mentioned that, and I don't know if it was a post or in your podcast, about your podcast being about the person you're interviewing and giving them the center stage. It's not about you. And I took a piece from that.
I always joke around that nobody will actually like chimes in to listen to me. Like it's all about somebody else. So like I've kind of like gone back and I look at the numbers, and on average, it's about 75 to about 85% of the time, or even higher, the guest is speaking. Like my job half the time is just try to ask some good questions, shut up and get out of the way.
How do you do that? Because like sometimes, I mean,
How?
okay, how do you do that? Because sometimes Christina and I are fighting over each other like two pigs in a blanket, like trying to get a hold of this thing.
I mean, like one of the like I also have like a like for the people that are listening, I have a thought out process of where I'm going to take the conversation. Like I think about this during my runs. I think about this. So like in the show notes, I have a bunch of bullet points, and we kind of like I let kind of just like it isn't like the questions, but it's bullet points to help keep me on track of where we want to take the conversation. And it's like the way I have it set up now is I have it like the hook, the story where it's the very beginning where it's like, the episode that's dropping tomorrow is somebody got laid off on maternity leave.
Oh,
like on mat leave, and then turned around, started her own company and billed $500,000 in 9 months.
Whoever that somebody is, can we just give a congratulations? You did that shit. You own it. Awesome. Incredible story.
But so that's the hook. That's the very beginning of the conversation. And then I walk through, of course, like I'm sure like some people wanted to hear this in the recruiting industry. Some don't. I'm always just curious. So that's why I have it as a conversation. Like, how'd you get started in the recruiting space? And then from there, I weave that into like the story or the meat of the story that we're talking about. And like tomorrow it's going to be talking about launching her own firm, like getting off the ground, what she did to get customers, what she did to get clients. And that's the meat, the package of the conversation. And then from there, and then I kind of just like, I have a few, like as the conversation ebbs and flows, have some questions, or if I want to dig deeper into something, I'm like, hey, can you tell me more about that? Hey, like you said something a few minutes ago about how you landed that customer. Can you like backtrack and like dig a little deeper for the listeners? Like what are you doing different to able to get those customers when there's so many people out there in the recruiting space that it's hurting right now? So like you kind of like jump on something, lock in, and then kind of go a little deeper. And then from there, I have it set up as the what I call the quick fire questions. It's like the actionable insights. And I'm really working on trying to get those like future episodes, like kind of evolve them a little bit. But it's always like, what advice would you give to a brand new recruiter? And this is like, I have those in the show notes so that way people can like look at them, they can think about them. Because what I've learned over time is you have people that are really good about like the off the cuff, the conversations, but then you have also people that aren't great with off the cuff conversations. And I want to make sure that like they've had a chance to at least like think about what potentially the answers are going to be. It isn't like a run through, let me give the answers. It's a conversational flow, but people have mentally prepared about how they want to think about these things and how the advice that they want to give and what they want to give to the listeners.
That's good business, good practice. That should be the bare minimum norm. Without providing questions for people to chew on, you're setting them up for lack of preparation, and you fail to prepare.
And I mean, it took me like a good like 75 episodes or something like that to figure that out. Like, it's like I got done with a few conversations, and I'm like, and then I saw other conversations they had, and I'm like, man, I did such a bad job. Like it wasn't bad on them. It was like, I just look at it as me, like, I should have prepared a little more. The amount of work that I have to put in for editing and post-production and all that stuff. Like if I spend I leave it a little 15 minutes more, like, or 20 minutes more beforehand, looking at their background, looking at some of the stuff they've written, looking at like what they've done. it really helps guide the conversation. So that way I'm coming to the table like with like research, or coming to the table with like knowledge, and I can ask better questions.
All right, about that and about asking better questions. There's some people that, Ben, I think I know everything about Rich Rosen that there is to know about Rich Rosen. Okay? Dude, you uncover so much about Rich Rosen. It's 2 episodes. For those of you who don't know who Rich Rosen is and you're in recruiting, I don't know what rock you've been living under. You can Google Rich Rosen and it'll very quickly come up with rankings in Forbes and Fast Company. And but how do you, like Rich, somebody who, for lack of a better term, he's been done so much. How did you make Rich like so much, so fresh to like a new generation of recruiters?
I mean, I think that's one of the things. Like, I'm just curious about stuff. I think that's really what it is. In the way that I look at the podcast questions, it's a combination of. I remember when I first started my recruiting job, and I got told that I was a horrible recruiter. They wanted to get rid of me, and nobody wants you on their team. The next day, I started like, cold calling top billers, and I just wanted to know what they were doing. Like how, like, just I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know what like things to do, but I just started cold calling around the company because I actually had no plan B. I had no backup, and I couldn't even afford a freaking car. I think my car like broke around that time period, so I was actually taking the bus to work. So I had no other option except for crawling out of the hole. But I knew that like the reason why they didn't get rid of me was because I was hitting the activity numbers, because I was like doing the work. They actually said like, you're doing the work. It was the reason why we're not firing you. Like we just can't figure out why you suck. So I started calling people. I was like, hey,
Wait,
why?
what a backhanded compliment. No, I mean, you're hitting everything. You're doing every
I'm
expectation.
hitting the
You
activity
suck.
numbers, but I was hitting the activity numbers, but I couldn't make a placement.
Had you ever made a placement before?
This is when I first started recruiting. No.
I mean, and the times have changed, hopefully, for new recruiters that's not cool. Like that,
Yeah,
it's
dude,
great.
I don't think the times have changed for new recruiters. I think things
Well,
have
they need
gotten
to.
brutally.
Need to.
I think they've gotten brutally worse.
I know. Why?
But here's the cool thing now compared to then. Like the only thing that I knew how to do was like look at the Wednesday list of the top billers and just start cold calling them, asking for 15 minutes at the end of the workday or 15 minutes during lunch. Now there is access to so much more information out there where you can go find a podcast, you can go find a recruiting book. Like outside that, like I was in such a silo back in 2006 when I first started my recruiting career that I didn't have access to that stuff. So like the way I think about the podcast is like, what about those questions that I really wanted to know when I was struggling so bad then? And what are some of the questions that I want to know now so that way I can become a better recruiter myself?
Ben, I'll be honest with you. I didn't realize I thought you had like just a decade of recruiting experience. I didn't realize that you were almost 20 years into this thing. Like,
Crazy, right?
yeah, I know. I mean, like,
You thought
and
that
you,
you thought that Ben and I had similar.
oh, I thought you and Ben, I like, I mean, I didn't realize that Ben was an OG. That's
I
where I'm
did.
at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, 2000, like it was like January or February of 2006 is when I started at Aerotech with an awesome base salary of 27,000.
Man, the days I had my first recruiting outside of my recruiting internship that turned into a sales job in a recruitment firm. It was the base was 33 plus commission, but I double dipped that with sales and recruiting. So, back then it was not terrible.
Oh,
I don't think it's terrible now. I mean, I don't know if I think it's terrible now, but like, I'm in the corporate. I'm in the corporate side of the house, right? Where I constantly have roles coming at me. Ben is in a hunt what you kill environment.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, what are you seeing out there?
So honestly, I think every niche is seeing something different. There are niches that are absolutely just crushing it right now, and there are niches that are just where everybody's struggling.
Who's crushing it?
Medical is just absolutely destroying it.
Mm-hmm.
Like but it also depends on like what part of medical. It's really just going where the economy is. And if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the few places that are really growing are healthcare and government over the last year. I think it was like 75% of the growth when it comes to like new jobs, government, healthcare, and like hospitality.
That makes complete sense to me.
Well, yeah, white collars getting destroyed.
But like at the same time, like I always tell people, like, you got to do what's best for your business. You got to do what's best for you. Like we also do a lot of consulting too, but we have learned from that in the government contracting space. Like you have to figure out what's best for your business. You got to figure out what's best for your desk. You got to figure out what's best for your family. One of the biggest things that we kind of learned when we first jumped in is what's the best business for you, Ben? One of the things that we learned when we first jumped in was we actually had a search for a 3-letter agency. We found the candidate from another 3-letter agency. The clearance crossover process took 9 months with a TSSCI and a full scope poly for some reason. It took 9 months. At the end of the 9 months, the clearance didn't cross over. And it was such a niche skill set that we spent so much time working on that we realized man, there's 1,000 ways to not get, there's 1,000 ways to go broke in the government contracting space. So we got to figure out a bit of a variable business model that works for us. So we do the hunting, we do the placements, we also do consulting too.
What is consulting?
Consulting could be like anything from like actually taking over an entire talent acquisition function and building it out. It could be working with proposals when it comes to, so the federal government has these massive proposal processes for companies to win the work. So we come in and actually sometimes even help with the proposals. We're not the proposal writers, but we actually work with, okay, this is what we're looking at. Let's go do a market mapping. Let's go do a market analysis. And we get paid for all those different functions.
It's a great way to stay recession proof in America right now. I'll say that, to work with government and do the government contracting, GSA.
But it's a complex field, and you got to learn the ins and outs of it. And one of the things that we always joked about is leaving that, but then we get calls from inbound leads that they're like, "Hey, we need help," and we're like, "Cool, tech kind of sucks right now. Let's hug government contracting."
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
But
I think perfect.
It also goes into, I think that one of the biggest problems a lot of recruiters have. There's only one way for them to do things. When the solution is there are multiple solutions that your client might actually need.
No. And when you say that, I bring everything back. I think that, let me just, put this out there. I've been unemployed so long that I don't necessarily think from a recruiter first mentality anymore, because I've been living this solopreneur lifestyle while in a job search, right? And you both are, I'm sitting here with two very well known recruitment professionals. So with that being said, I want to go back. The business of you. How do you balance being a recruitment professional, owning a business, having a podcast, posting content on all these platforms? How do you?
My day timer is out of reach, but it's a lot of goal focused, time blocking, and when it comes to the social media content, a lot of that's actually not written during the day. A lot of that's written at night and actually just scheduled to be posted.
I have found for myself that a lot of people fear the posts, right? What will people say, or what, is this even good? Yada, yada, all the things that stop you from posting. When I schedule, it eliminates that fear completely.
It just think about this, you can easily hop on LinkedIn. So actually, let me take a step back. Brian, in your recruiting job, you have so many things that you need to get done, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
And what happens if you don't do any of those things or don't get anything done?
Oh, I guess they would let me go.
Bad things, right? So
Bad
like
things. I guess they would let me go. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
I mean,
I just do my
so
thing.
so you have to like make sure that you're focusing on your top 3 objectives for the day. And many times it's not posting content. So during the work days or during the core hours, you got to focus on what when it comes to recruiting, whether BD, like, I have actually an app on my phone called Opal where I cannot access any of the social media sites on my phone between the hours of, I think it's like 8:30 and 4:30 p.m.
Opal, OPAL.
OPAL.
Okay.
Because
I
you
am
can
gonna need to get that immediately. Like add to, I need that.
Add to
like
cart.
like one of the things, like, I mean, it's one of the things like I've discovered over time with a lot of these interviews. There's a lot of people that are really good at like creating being self accountable to yourself and making sure that you're getting done. You plan the day and actually make sure you get it done. There are people that don't have that self accountability yet that are working on it, and then you have people that, like, a lot of people when they're in the job, you are being held accountable to your hiring managers, your managers. So there's an built-in accountability factor that a lot of people within a corporate work environment, whether agency or within a TA function, have. So you're kind of forced to get things done, but when you kind of like semi jump out on your own or do some stuff on your own, you have to either create a structure for yourself to win, or you have to find ways to set your up a structure where you're being accountable to like a buddy or an accountable through a program. You have to like find the structures to set yourself up for success.
That perfect. I
And,
think
and, and I want to clarify something. You said structure. You didn't say anything about goals. You said structure. And I
Yeah.
want to make sure that we're making a distinction because, like, I hear people who have wonderful goals, and there's a quote that Christina sent to me the other day, sent me 3 weeks ago, and I
this
butchered it ever
really
since.
got you, huh?
It stuck with me about the inspiration and perspiration and
Huh?
deliverables and having goals without structure. It's no bueno.
I mean, it's like, whether structure, it's systems, but at the end of the day, it's the what you do today. Like, you have 7 days in a week. Not every day is going to be a good day,
Mhm.
but either you're going to be like, if you're in a pit where I've, been a few times in my life, I can spend today either digging my hole deeper or digging my way out. And not
And
every day is going to be a good day, but as long as you make sure you put enough good days together in a week so that you have more good days than bad days, you can keep on going.
fantastic advice. And I think it's really important to think about short term, like 7 days. I I tend to think like in 90-day terms. What do I
And
want
well,
the next 90 days versus the year?
I mean, it's one that, like, I would even take a step back and like figure out what you want your life to look like 3 years from now. I think 5 years is too much. 10 years is too much. What do you want your life to look like 3 years from now? Spend a day writing that out. Like, make it like sound like, where do you want to be living? What do you want to be doing? Like, what do you want your career to look like three
I can
years
tell
from now?
you
And then, like, once you have that written out, have that where you can see it constantly, but then start reverse engineering how to get there. What do I need to do on a yearly basis? Okay, we got this down. What do I need to do like on a 6-month basis? You got to backtrack your goals. And here's the thing, like, people have goals constantly. Yeah, cool. Like, I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight is not a goal.
no.
I want to lose 10 pounds by XYZ date is a goal.
Now you're going smart goals on us.
Is that what that is? I don't pay attention to that.
Yeah,
You
but
went real old school recruiter on me there.
no, but what I hear you talking about then, not just about making the smart goals, is by working backwards and
Yeah.
backing yourself into it, right? Is that you're asking, you want to lose 10 pounds by Christmas. Why do you want to lose 10 pounds by Christmas? What's the benefit of losing 10 pounds? How are you going to get there? How do you challenge yourself to deliver on it? Just like, I think that there, when you're starting a recruiting firm, you need to focus on winning those deals as soon as you can. And then, but don't be fixated on being $1 million biller your first year. Back your way into being $1 million biller.
I mean, if you're just getting started in your recruiting business, like, this is going to come off wrong, but don't make your focus being $1 million biller.
Agreed.
Agreed.
You have to, for most $1 million billers that don't have some sort of like, VC back funding where they have a tech platform and all that fun stuff where they're actually, or if they're solo, like we talk about $1 million billers constantly, but $1 million billers is the norm. Make it a goal to be a big biller. And the question is what for you, for your own business, for your own life, for your own person, what does it being a big biller actually mean?
Now, can we let's rename the big biller
To what?
to expand outside. Like we have an audience in recruitment, and Ben, I am so curious about all the things that you do that are not recruitment. I know you talk to people about recruitment. I know that's your podcast is based. I get, but like Brian, you may help me here. Like,
Okay, all right. So Christina, what I
got where
think
I'm going with that.
what I think Christina's getting at is that we say be $1 million biller, be a big biller, and those are recruiting terminologies, right? What would you tell somebody who instead of being in recruiting, they were in sales or account management or customer success? Is that what you're saying, Christina? How would you rename it? How would you rephrase the nomenclature?
That
I
was
mean,
words out of my
like,
mouth. Couldn't have made it better.
I like being a big biller is a very recruiting focused like structure. But I think like the thing that you need to look at is like you got to figure out what success means for you. What does success mean for if you're working for somewhere else, for somebody else? Like what are the metrics that they're holding you against? And also what are the metrics that you're holding yourself against?
Oh,
Exactly. Do you hold yourself to, um, recruiters right now are,
well, I think that depending upon where you are in your life, you hold yourself to different metrics. Like
Oh yeah.
when you're,
oh yeah,
you're like, Ben is a new. For those of you who don't follow Ben, you don't know that Ben is a new father, and I'm sure that Ben has one set of metrics for what he wants to deliver as a father, as opposed to in business, right? Like my daughter Maddie, you guys have all heard me talk about her incessantly. I try to find out how much more time I can spend with Maddie before Maddie decides that she doesn't want to have anything to do with her dad, right? Because that day, yes, Christina, you have warned me that day will come when little girls are like, I don't want to have anything to do with you, Daddy. Let me go party with these other
all the
people.
time. Yeah.
Well, and that really goes into like what your definition of a success is. But like you have to have some sort of structure, whether you're self-employed, whether you're working somewhere that like, you can't real quick, you can't have a definition of success by not doing any work. And if you're working for someone or they're going to get rid of you.
Mm-hmm. But what about everybody that's, overworking just to keep their job amongst, the countless coworkers that have been laid off? What advice do you have to them? For
The
those that
laid off, the overworking or the laid off, because those are two different
Those are two
categories.
different groups, yeah.
let's start with the ones left that are out speaking to candidates.
I mean, like when at the end of the day, like I do remember my time at a large defense contractor where I got constantly, excuse my language, screwed over by them. I was working probably about 12 to 15 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week, while the person next to me only had 3 positions. I was in charge of the 300. And no matter what I got told, I was like, hey, doesn't work. I need help. They're like, well, this is your job and you have to handle it. And if you don't handle it well, it's going to be bad on you. So like, I understand the overworked. I understand like many times at places where I've worked somewhere where they said, you're not actually allowed to go home until like you hit XYZ. But I'm like, the entire office is gone. For those people, put in the work, but start networking your ass off. So that way you can open up a door, networking your butt off. So you can start opening up a door somewhere else. It's not going to happen tomorrow, unfortunately. Like no matter how angry you are, like, you have to start building that bridge for your own tomorrow. And like, it's like both those places that where I was like crushed and overworked and drowning. I did that for probably one place 9 months after that decision, the next place another 6 months. Like it wasn't a tomorrow thing, but I went and actually built out an entire network of like, I remember one of them was like, I hit the end of the day. I was like, I just want to move to Tampa, like living in Orlando. I'm over this. I went out and set a friend requests on LinkedIn. This is way back when, to every single government contract recruiter in the Tampa market, every single one of them, and started conversations with every single one of them.
That's
And
incredible.
then from there, I'm like, okay, hey, you had great conversations. Let me know when you have your next opening. Let me know when you have your next opening. So when the opening did come, guess who the first person they thought of, even though they had hundreds of applications. But I also, at the other time, I was able to sit there and show them the work that I could do. Like at the I could bring to the table. I'm like, hey, right now, government contract, I have a bunch of clear stuff. I'm working 300 recs. Like I am drowning, but at the same time, like here's a structure of how I'm like I can win with your team. Here's the value that I could win. So when it comes to if the overworked advice, it sucks. Whether like if you're in a position where you can quit tomorrow, awesome. But I always tell people don't quit unless you have another job lined up, because at the like this isn't 2022 where everybody can go from like a Publix grocery bagger to being a high paid recruiter at Facebook.
Don't knock Publix. Don't knock Publix.
Oh man, I love Publix. Pub Sub, man, that's the best thing.
That's what I had for lunch today. The
But,
Italian is $2 off. I'm just saying. All right, I'm done. Publix,
you really have to start building out where you want to go, and it's going to require a lot of proactive work. That is stuff that I was doing in the evenings, and that was stuff that I was doing in the weekends. That was stuff that when I was stuck in a meeting, because another thing I analyzed at one of those organizations, that was in 30 hours of meetings a week, which didn't let me get that much recruiting done. Some of these meetings where I'm just sitting there, just stuck in the meeting, I use that as like online networking time.
That is a fascinating remark you just gave us, because the amount of meetings and the amount of time that recruiters spend outside of closing the deal, which I mean, a lot of recruiters don't even, depending on where you are, not everybody has to do that. But my point being is, I think that I've noticed a pattern of low quality recruitment. I mean, we've always had a bad rep kind of recruiters. And it seems to me that, there needs to be something done to help the recruiters that are currently working, like the company, on the company side. Is that bold of me to say?
What are you talking about? I want to clarify this. Well, are you saying that there needs to be some kind of repercussion for low quality on company side? Because I think the repercussion is we can go find another person who can do this better and better and better than you can.
Yeah, the problem is just the way the internal talent acquisition structure is set up. Like I know for the longest time, it's kind of died down, is the talk of the candidate experience, which it's a huge thing for recruiters to talk about. It's a huge thing for recruiters to care about. But for many large organizations, they don't give a shit.
They should. It's the first impression of that.
They don't care.
Well, they should care.
They should, but at the end of the day, it's not a $ on their spreadsheet that goes to, to their stock. You can still absolutely crush the employer brand and suck on the recruiting side.
So Ben, I'd argue with you that there was a case study that was done, albeit before COVID, that was about candidate experience for Virgin Mobile, and how Virgin Mobile showed that having a bad candidate experience actually reduced the number of people who were purchasing their mobile devices. I'm happy to send that along. I'm happy to share that in the show notes. But that's one case study.
I mean, but also
a great.
Let me turn around and look at this. Look at all these companies that have gotten rid of people just via email, gotten rid of people in Zoom messages. Guess what? They're still getting 1,000 applications per job. At the end of the day, people are just jumping on the rolls. Like the way that they've treated candidates and treated employees, and just burning them throughout the door, burning them. Guess what? The second they put an opening up, there's another 1,000 applications.
No doubt.
And that's going back to the business of you, Ben. So it's frustrating for the people that have been out looking for jobs and going up against thousands of other people. And then, having really great interviews and being told that you'll get feedback and all of that is frustrating. But there are things
real quick, here's what I would do right now if I was looking for a job. And I think that's the problem is I don't believe just applying to a job is not going to get you a job anymore. Like what I would
Thank
actually
you.
do
Thank you.
is I would actually go find the company that I want to work for, find the recruiting managers, use some of my like sourcing tools that you can actually get for free.
Mhm.
Like there's stuff out there. Figure out who the managers are. Actually, I can write the message to the manager. But here's the thing: in my message, I'm actually also taking 5 jobs from their website, sourcing 20 people per job, finding their contact information, and on that spreadsheet for every single one of those people, like letting them know why this person would be such a good person for their organization. Like I would do that for 5 jobs. I would do that for like 5 jobs per week. But each of those like jobs that I'm like technically applying for, I'm doing that sourcing for 5 positions. I am showing why I am going to be such a good person. The problem is like you have to be like this isn't the TikTok days where the advice where 2022 where oh yeah you just do this and go get a job. No, like you actually like if whatever you're doing isn't working, you need to freaking change it right now.
Mhm. Is
And
when you're going
yes, in TikTok world says doing free work is horrible. Companies shouldn't do that. I would volunteer to do it. I want to get like you have to do something to get yourself to the top of that application list.
yeah, totally. But uh,
But no,
what
you
about
said but. Totally but. So Christina, I'm going to hold you on that. Why do you say but? Because Ben
because I'm
says,
you can have a referral from the VP of talent, and still I'm I just I keep going back to like outside of, but I think that we are in the rise of like doing different things like TikTok to recession proof yourself.
Well, I mean that goes into something completely different. That goes into like the idea of becoming a content creator, and like there are millions of content creators that are making at least $60,000 a year. So that's like a whole different avenue of like, hey, maybe I don't want to be a recruiter anymore. Maybe I want to focus on content. It could be recruiting content. It could be job content. I know people that talk about job content and they constantly shit on recruiters constantly, but they make 7 figures on just job content. Like you're
Yeah.
talking about completely a whole different like business rather than like looking like for a recruiting job or like looking for your next recruiting opportunity.
Yeah.
And you have to like actually diversify yourself. And that's what you do it with content. But if you're looking for a recruiting job, like you you got to do something different than just like applying because there's so many different AI tools. They're now like for people applying to 100 jobs a day. So now you're fighting to even get seen. Because God bless the recruiters that actually look at every single resume. God
Seriously.
bless them. But I also know that some of these places, some of these recruiters are not able to see the 7,000 applications they get in for their job because they also have another 20 hours of meetings that they're in per week. And you know what? They want to spend time with their family, or they're in like what hiring man like if you have a like there's a problem is there's a lot of good recruiters, but what recruiting manager wants to do interviews with 75 applicants? They just want to see like the recruiter's like favorite 5.
And with all the advances in technology right now, it's making it pretty. I don't know if you've applied to a job on LinkedIn recently, but there's ways of
Haven't.
moving things around to make yourself 10 out of
So
10 fit.
well, wait a minute, wait a
like
minute. Sorry to interrupt. Have you guys seen Party Rock by AWS?
no.
Oh, okay. I will text this to everybody later, but there
Okay.
is an application that is called partyrock.aws, and there is an application that is called the Talent Resume Helper, where you can put in the job title that you're looking for, put in the company you want to apply to, and then you can copy and paste the job description, and it will build your resume. It will take your existing resume and transform it to meet the job description. And
And
that's
see
on
that's
AWS Party Rock.
Party Rock has that, like Earn Better has that. Like there's so many AI platforms that have that. So you're like if you're just applying, you're now competing against all these AI tools, which is why I'm like you have to go do something different. Like go put in the structural work. It sucks. But like maybe you can easily find like multiple tech companies and you kind of like you can use your list over again that you've just sourced, but you
Mhm.
have to do something to separate yourself from every single person that's looking for a job too. And I know the advice in 2022 was like don't do free work, I should be paid for any work. I get that. You should be paid for any work. But at the same time, I also want to feed my family. I want to be able to sit there and pay my bills. Bills don't stop when
No,
you lose your job.
they
I've been
don't.
there many times. They don't. So you have to figure out something different than what you've been doing that hasn't been working.
Yeah. That reminds me of something that Adam Posner recently said about,
You're gonna hate for saying that. Keep
well,
going though.
okay, about the exchange of, right now, in economic uncertainty, having to make different actions that you wouldn't normally make, like saving $400 by, skipping your flight and, taking that $400 voucher or whatever they do. Um, Normally you wouldn't do that. You'd rush to go straight home, but now that's $400 that I didn't have before. And like, is that good for us in the long term? Who knows? That
I
was
mean,
tough.
like,
But
I think like if you, I don't know why I'm never on the plane where they give the vouchers
me
to get
neither.
off the
Me
plane.
neither. We're
I'm
always
never the
playing.
lucky one. But
I,
also,
sorry,
you all the time.
it would be you.
It would be
But
me.
also,
It
like,
would be me.
but like then like look at this, like what like on a per hour basis, like what does that cost you? If it's like on a Saturday or something like that, where it doesn't affect your work or doesn't affect your schedule, that's actually $400 that I can use later on. Cool. Like look at that. Like, but if it's like I'm going to be late for a meeting that has like a huge impact on my career, I wouldn't take the $400 because it doesn't have the ROI.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to switch gears abruptly here and ask you a point blank question about the podcast. How did you, from starting to growing, how did you get in creating? I know you had told me that you were like, I did 110 episodes without having like an email address or something.
Oh yeah.
And that to me was like that. Um, it's absorbed in my brain. It'll be there forever, and I will remember that forever. So I like use that as push it out, push it out, push it out motivation for me. How did you do what you've done and what you continue to do? And what advice do you have for others that would like to start?
So I use this terminology called dumb idea. So if you ever hear me say the word dumb idea, it actually doesn't mean a dumb idea. It just means an idea that you have that you should implement. So in many places, like they call it like an MVP, but that's like fancy Silicon Valley terminology. But if you have an idea in your head, don't wait for everything to be perfect before you go implement it. If you want to go start a podcast, guess what? Hop on Zoom, have an interview with somebody. Like you can do like hop on Spotify for podcasters and upload it to Spotify for free. Like
Yeah.
there's so many ways that you need to do things. It's just a lot of times like people like overcomplicate the process and it keeps them from actually getting anything done.
As somebody who overcomplicates the process a lot,
We all do.
what
Yeah.
what would you say? What advice do you have for somebody who overcomplicates things and
Put something on the schedule, whether it's like whatever it is, like if it's an interview, call up a friend, like
Yeah.
be like, you're in the recruiting business or the recruiting industry. You want to start like a perfect example, podcast in recruiting. Guess what? I would reach out to one of my friends. One of my friends is Brian Frank. Hey, 2 Thursdays from now, do you got 45 minutes to sit down and do a Zoom with me? I'm going to like turn this into a podcast. Cool. Awesome. And then on behind the scenes, like you start doing a little bit of preparing because you now have something locked in a schedule forcing you to actually take action.
Yep. A lot of things that I bring up are about, confidence and actions and daily habits because I'm wired that way. If I don't put some sort of structure, I will go structureless and get nothing done.
But you can
So
also overstructure where you get nothing done.
exactly. So I really like how you said about like focus time, and time blocking just in general, to dedicate to certain things in your life that are important to you. That
I
was
mean, I mean, it is one of those things at the end of the day, like there are main things that you need to do, whether for your job, your business, for recruiting or whatever. And then there's all these additional things that need to be done. You got to always make sure that you don't get stuck on the easy additional things and actually get the main things done. Or if the easy additional things, that's for me, like when Gabe is in bed after 7 p.m., where I can go back and hop online and start working till about 9 p.m. But that's like he's in a stage of his life where that's a block of time that I can be refocused again and get stuff done. But if I had multiple kids, I don't know if that's an option, but like I've talked to a lot of parents that their focused time for actually like some of those additional things is just early in the morning before the day really starts, before they get out of bed. So you really have to figure out what works for you. Mm-hmm. And this kind of like wrap back around to the conversation that we had earlier about like big billers and this kind of stuff. You got to figure out what success means to you. Like success could be like 100K and awesome. Success could be 75K. Awesome. But what like success could be like 450K. Awesome. Like work towards your own definition of success and don't focus on all the other people and what their definition is, because they're also in a different chapter of life than you are.
Speaking of chapters, where do you see the vision, the future, the plan, the strategy of the Elite Recruiter podcast? Where's that, what can we expect to see in the future?
If you want a good laugh, like that is something I'm confused with. Like okay. I have like ideas and plans, but one of my things is things evolve as long as you're taking action. When you're in a car and you're driving down the road, you can turn your car. But if your car is stopped and you try turning, you can't, the car won't move. Mm-hmm. So as long as I'm like taking some sort of forward motion and action, I can move the car to where it wants to go. So one of the first keyword dumb ideas that I had was I was on a run a while back, and I was like, hey, what if I like kind of like put together brought some of these like speakers and like, people that are really influential in the recruiting industry together for a summit. And that's what the first Recruiting Growth Summit was really just a dumb idea I had during a run. And like, I had a few friends hit me up on the back end. They're like, you don't have like a 7-figure crazy funnel. And I'm like, no, it was just a dumb idea that I took action with.
And
it was awesome. It was incredible. It was a great day.
Awesome. I was there, loved it. The metrics for that, because we're sitting here talking about what success looks like.
I mean, like honestly, like I thought, like for me, success was going to be if 25 people signed up.
And that's goes back to success being different for every single person. The book, I published a book recently, and it's available on Amazon. It's the 7-minute daily confidence journal, available on Amazon. And just getting that out, if no one ever bought it, to have it for myself, like that, that's what I wanted. And if I had, all the money in the world, I would gift it to everyone for free, because that was the purpose for it. I knew what I wanted with success with that. So,
I mean, that's a huge BD tool for you in the back end. Like when you're sitting there, you actually like think about this. Like if you're looking for your next client, or if you're looking for like your next recruiting job, be different. Send that in the mail.
Exactly. Yeah, it's instead of sending, the fruit basket, give them something that can make them better.
Well, I mean, you talk about that. That's actually one of my favorite things that Anoop Gupta from Seek Out sent me, is that Anoop used to send out a book for the holidays. Right. And like, I have my Anoop books for 3 years that he sent me. And, everybody knows I use Seek Out, right? Like that's not a surprise, but Anoop keeps me on the list and keeps me engaged because he knows that I read.
It's those little things that you need to do different to stand out. Absolutely. Because we live in an AI world now where so much of the content is AI. So many of the emails are AI. We're constantly in AI, like the AI messaging sequences. Be different. Send a video. Be different. Send a postcard. Be different.
The sending a video. I mean, not that I'm the king of confidence or anything, but like the act of sending a video cold is kind of I'm not afraid of it. I'll do it, but like,
So
does that?
I will let
Hmm,
the person we need to have talk about that is Mike Wiley, who used to work with me at Twitter. Is that
okay.
Mike Wiley could get a hold of anybody if he sent them a video, and he was phenomenal at recruiting top tier talent that was AI machine learning before the arms race started and bringing it to Twitter. And he used video. He used video every day to get it. And I was like, I shook my head at first when I saw it, but like now when we live in this world of Sensio, is that it? The app that I feel like is advertised every day on LinkedIn, where we can build these artificial videos to talk to candidates at scale. Personalized video is going to become even more important.
I mean, Cynthia is also great, but the problem is like Cynthia, what most of them isn't you. There are some AI tools where you can actually have yourself, but it's a video that you actually make yourself, but it uses AI for just the name. Like SenseMark is absolutely amazing, but like doing like the personalized thing here and there. Once again, it's like you have to be different. Like if it's a great candidate, guess what? There's like 50 other recruiters hitting them up. What are they going to do what do you have to do to actually get their attention? You have to be different now.
Yeah. And we're in the world of like hooks and call to actions. I know you said meat and potatoes in the middle. And um, you know, I, I am very passionate about content because that's what I'm doing to stand out. So if you don't want to do content, what would you what would you suggest?
I mean, like there's some things like being hopping on video content that's super hard. Like I don't understand video editing. That's way above my pay grade. But guess what? I can learn a little bit about copywriting.
And
I
where
can little I can learn a little bit about community building. Like here's the thing that like I'm going to talk about from like in the Recruit DC thing is like if you're looking for a job, guess how many recruiting directors first of all, guess how many recruiters are in the DC metro? There are
um
28,000 plus recruiters in the DC metro.
okay.
Guess how many like recruiting managers and directors there are?
Probably double.
Yeah, it's about 1,500. So if
Oh,
you're actively looking for a position and you've only been friends with like one or two recruiting managers or directors on LinkedIn, you're doing something wrong. You need to start building the community that you need for the next 10 years now.
yeah. I love that you said community building. Um, I'm on that tip.
So, and here's the thing, like start talking about what you're doing. Like don't make it a highlight of me, but talk about like, hey, just close out a search for XYZ, close out a search for like a big data cloud specialist focusing on a NOAA project. Actually start talking about the things that you're doing at least a few times a week. And it doesn't have to be like a me thing. You can even just, if you want to like make it completely about somebody else. I had this thing for 6 months where I did a follow Friday where like it was just people that I followed. I shared on Friday, like, hey, this is my follow Friday. Here are 3 to 5 people that I really respect. Here's why I think you should follow them too.
Do you still do those?
No, not right now.
Okay, I remember being on a follow Friday and it felt good.
But like you could be
Like,
doing that within your niche.
yeah, I wrote it down. If you don't think I'm gonna somehow make my own flavor to it.
But I committed to doing that. It was like, I think it was like July or August. And my commitment was to do that all the way through the rest of the year. And that's what I did. Every single Friday,
You write it
I'd
down?
had it queued up. Like it was a scheduled post. And guess what? Like if you did that within your niche, like if you did that with, we'll say in the recruiting DC or the DC Metro, guess what? All these recruiting directors and managers are going to see who you are. And the problem is like they might have 1,000 applications, but they want to hire somebody that they know that could get the job done. How do you, once again, you have to be different and have to do something different to stand out.
So love that you ended on that because I'm going to use that to tie us because we are coming up on time and we have had a roller coaster of an episode here. I know we've talked a lot about recruiting, we've talked a lot about content. I've tried to go the solo route. And Brian, I know you had some specific branding things. I just want to make sure I give you the floor.
So one question I've got is that I found you through SEO. is I typed in the phrase best recruiter, elite recruiter. Like I remember it, and your podcast came up. How did the hell did you get that domain? Because
I don't know.
I mean,
Huh?
like
Did you
I've
say
got domains all the time, and I'm like, dude, like this is brilliant.
So Elite Recruiter actually cost $8,500. So I did not buy that domain, but the domain Elite Recruiter Podcast was wide open.
I have a story like that coming soon.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, but here's the thing: like I actually created a bunch of content, so it pulled up when you search for that.
You set it up. Yeah.
Right. I mean, your SEO is sick, right? Like
I have a LinkedIn article from 4 years ago that still brings in leads.
I believe
And
it.
the article wasn't about bringing in leads. It was just about like I was having fun playing with all the the sourcing tools and all this stuff. So I kind of put it together in one LinkedIn article and then just hit post and walked away. But like somehow that article became one of the top like trending things if you do Google searching on finding cleared professionals.
Yeah.
So like take whatever knowledge you have, and if you don't like hopping on video, write about it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
my God, this was all, like also before like ChatGPT, where you can have them like clean it up for you.
Mhm. And so the podcast came how many years after you started in recruitment?
17 maybe.
Was there any
16.
like defining moment that was like,
Honestly, I don't want to say there's any true defining moment that like, this is things have changed. It's just like I just kind of just put in a little bit of work, put in a little more work, got the next episode out, had really fun talking with these people, and I just wanted to share. Like, yeah, half of it is like I have so much fun having these conversations. I just look forward to sharing these stories. Like one of my favorites recently, Pete Tomasco, homeless for over a decade.
Dude, this story. Sorry, please continue.
Homeless for over a decade, and now he's a part owner of a search firm that is just absolutely crushing it. And here's the thing: like, I don't care about my downloads. I don't care about like those numbers. Like, I probably should, but I want people to hear this a story like that. I want people to hear tomorrow the story that goes live of somebody that got laid off during maternity leave and turned around and like made an opportunity of that. I want to hear people to hear the stories of like James Dyson talking about those hiring those cleared candidates. I want people to hear a story of that can help them where they're at, so that way they know that they're not alone and they can make an impact themselves too.
Like Tim Ferriss, but with impact and empathy. I like that.
yeah, and spreading positivity. I'm on that tip too, and I think that the environment and the structures you create for yourself, kind of like life is what you make it, and as with work too. And so, with that being,
I mean, we like most of us fell into recruiting. It's the reason why I think what separates like good recruiters and okay recruiters is so often we fell into it. So like we don't want to commit you don't want to do like extra things to learn how to like be better or do things. So I had to reframe how I thought about recruiting on a daily basis. And that's what helped me. It was like, okay, I am now focusing on like the mission. I'm now helping this organization, or here's the way I looked at it. Like depending on the company, like there was a place when I worked at a large defense contractor. If I hired the wrong people for the job, or that job was left unfilled, my friend overseas that's serving in the army could potentially die because I didn't find the right hire. How can I make a difference in my little world with recruiting? And that's what I had to learn.
that's a story, and I think that's huge. And I don't mean to go back into content, but huge in showing authentic like relationship building. You didn't have to share that, and you did, and you chose to, and those are the choices. I think that wraps all of this up of standing out is being vulnerable to tell people things you don't necessarily love or You get where I'm going.
Christina, you're spot on. Like, I can't think of a better way to wrap this up than for us to kind of bring full circle that we talked about branding, authenticity. Apparently, Brian can't speak today. It's all good, right? It's all good.
Right.
Ben's here to speak. That's it. The reality of it is that we've had a great conversation with our friend Benjamin today, or Ben. I'm sorry, I always call you Benjamin. Whatever. I apologize. Benjamin, we wish you, there I go again. We wish you the very best at Recruit DC this week. Thank you for being part of this conversation, lending your insights to our community and helping us build better. Thank you so much. Have a great Recruit DC.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck. Have fun.